G'day, Urates. I just wanted to talk through the mock exam. My suggestion is as we do this, freeze the video once you've seen the question, have a go at answering it, and then we'll have a chat about the answer. So let's quickly go through what we need to know. We started with needs and wants, right? So the difference between a need, something that was essential, and something a want, something that was discretionary. We talked about the economic problem and scarcity. This is where needs and wants lead us, is that there's not enough resources to satisfy everyone's needs and wants. So that idea of scarcity. How do we decide how to satisfy needs and wants? We've got the different markets: retail market, financial market, stock market, and labour market. We've got the 5-sector model, which is going to be a little bit of revision, I think, for most people to get it, starting with the inside sectors, the household sector, which buys goods and services of the business sector, which looks to the household sector for labour, and the economic system, free markets, mixed economies, and centrally planned markets. So that's what we are looking at. So let's have a look at this first question. I would suggest pause it now, have a go at answering it, and then come back and listen to the answer here. Explain the difference between needs and wants and give an example of each. So, needs, we talked about things that are essential for life. Water and food is a great answer here. Wants are products and services that make life easier or more enjoyable, but not necessary for survival. We had some great discussions in class about things that we weren't sure whether it was need or want. For example, a mobile phone. It's better to stick to the clear things. Water and food are absolutely essential for life. PlayStation, that's a fun item. So in your answer, you should have had the needs and an example, wants an example, and you're using good, clear business language. So examples of words that suggest business language are talking about products and services. Okay, again, if you're having a look at this, I'd have a stop and jot down a quick answer here. Pause the video. So explain what is meant by the term economic problem. Now we happen to just have a look at this when we were talking through the introduction. So the economic problem is that the consumers have unlimited wants and needs. We're always wanting a little bit more, but we have limited resources to satisfy these. So the problem is, the economic problem is to make the best use of scarce resources. So what should be in there? We should have talked about the fact that we have unlimited wants, we have limited resources, and scarcity, or making, in this case, the problem is to make the best use of scarce resources, and always reflecting good business language. Okay, have a look at this question and pause the video and have a go at answering this. Listen and explain the 4 kinds of markets. So here we have the 4. The first is retail markets, any place where goods and services are exchanged for money. Think about up at North Lakes, they are retail markets. And up at North Lakes, there's a whole bunch of people who are also working. North Lakes, Westfield, I mean. That's the labour market, people offering to work in return for money. A lot of those businesses at North Lakes, for example, Woolworths, are listed on the stock market where you can trade shares or part ownership of these companies. And you'll also see up there at Woolworths at Northside Westfield a bunch of banks, the financial markets, which allow you to trade financial services, for example, loans, maybe getting a mortgage for the house, savings, or credit card. So they're the 4 types of market, and maybe you can put together an image from Westfield North Lakes to help you remember. Okay, now I'd be pausing the video, having a go at answering. Explain the term market and give 2 examples. Okay, so markets are just any situation where there are buyers and sellers coming together. So 2 examples might be an online store, eBay, and a bricks and mortar store, Coles. So if you've got in your answer the fact that a market is where there are buyers and sellers, and there's some sort of exchange going on, and it can be in real life or online, you've done really well. Okay, this is going to be a long one. Again, I suggest have a look at the question, pause the video, and then we'll have a chat about it. What is meant by the following? Free market system, a mixed economy, and a centrally planned economy. Okay, free market is an economic system where there's no government interference. So that's the really important bit, no government interference in a free market. Supply and demand determines production and price. And what that means is that anyone's able to produce whatever they can sell. If someone wants to set up a business, a cat grooming business, the thing that will decide whether it's successful or not is whether people buy that product. Let's go down to the other extreme, the centrally planned economy. So this is where governments make all decisions and there's no private ownership. People don't own their own business, very different from Australia. And in this case, the video watched from North Korea is a great example. They even talked in that video about just a small sort of rural market. The government didn't even like that. Didn't like people buying and selling, exchanging in that way. It all goes through government decision making. And a mixed economy, which is probably the most common, is an example of both. There's private ownership of resources and capitalism companies, but there are also government involvement. So we might see that, for example, in Australia, there are government rules, the government pays social security to people. There's a combination of the two. Okay, so that's what we're looking for in the answer, description of each system and a characteristic. So a characteristic being, for example, no government interference for the free market answer. Okay, the difference between a salary and a wage. Pause the video, have a go at that. Salaries are paid to workers who are employed on a full-time or perhaps more a permanent basis. Right, so it would be fine to just use that answer. So it's for more permanent workers. And for me as a teacher at the Lakes College, I'm paid a salary. Wages are what most of you will get as you start picking up jobs in the next, if you choose to, the next few years. Paid to workers who are part-time or on a casual contract, and they're more paid per hour, so the number of hours that you actually work. Okay, 4 functions of money. This is one question that people found challenging. Have a go at this, pause and have a go, and then we'll come back with an answer. Okay, let's have a think about this. The first of these is that it's a way we exchange goods and services, right? So there's a dollar has a pretty common value, and so we know that a dollar will buy us this or that, or $10 will buy us whatever. So it's a way of exchanging goods and services. It helps us to determine the price of goods and services, a measure of value. It's also a store of value. You can save money to spend at a later date, and it's a way of deferring payment. So you can buy something on credit and you can repay that at a later date. So they're the 4 functions of money. Okay, explain what stocks are and 2 benefits of owning stocks. Have a go at this, hit the pause button now. Now, the word stocks and shares are very much interchangeable, exactly the same thing. So we talk about playing the share market game. In Australia, we tend to use the word shares a little bit more. Stocks are still used a lot. So stocks or shares are the parts of public companies that are traded on the stock exchange. They're very, very small parts of companies like Woolworths, Domino's, Telstra. So 2 reasons. The 2 reasons why people buy stocks are that they hope they go up in value. We call that capital growth. So you're hoping that you buy stocks at $10 and they go up to $12 and you get some capital growth. And dividends paid by the company. A lot of companies twice a year, some companies 4 times a year, will pay dividends, part of the earnings of the company, back to shareholders. Okay. Describe the 4 factors, the 4 inputs, the 4 factors of productions that are needed in the production process. Okay. This is an interesting question. Can we remember the 4? Let's have a go once you've had a go at the answer. Here they are: land, labour, capital, and enterprise. But land is a little bit of a tricky one. It doesn't have quite the literal meaning of land. Land is just any natural resources provided from the earth. So let's think about the McDonald's up here at Northlake. The natural resources used by McDonald's will be things like the ingredients, the potatoes that go into the fries, the wheat that goes into making the buns, and so on. So that's the land, the natural resources. Labour are the people working in the production process. Capital is the equipment. So think about the fryer that they use to make the chips, the grills that are used to make the burger. And enterprise. Enterprise is like the risks, the business ideas from the business owner, entrepreneurship. So if you've got the 4 factors, that's great. It's always good to use examples, just like I talked about McDonald's as a possible example here. Okay, now this is a little bit tricky. As in, this will take a while, I should say, and it'll take a little bit of learning for most people. One of the great things about testing yourself is now, and this one is, you know how much you do. There's 16 little bits of information you need for this. If you know 12, then you can focus on the 4 that you don't, or if you know 8, you can focus on the 8 that you don't yet know. So here it is, and I like to start in the middle. Households spend on goods and services for business that pay salary and labour. Let's then look at governments. Governments take taxes from both households and businesses, and they spend money on welfare, for example, the age pension for households and infrastructure and development for businesses. You also have financial institutions, think banks. So banks might provide credit to households, and households might deposit their savings in a bank, and financial institutions might make investments in businesses to help them grow. Overseas, we might have some imports that households use and exports that come from there. So we have imports and exports going out of the country. So they're the critical sectors. Interpret the effect on the economy if household spending increases. Okay, a paragraph response of 50 to 100 words. So let's have a go at that, press pause, and then come back and have a look at the answer. Here's an example answer. The topic, spending. Household spending on goods and services impact directly on business. That gives us a clear idea of what we're talking about. Now we look at this relationship. If household spending increases, it means that businesses will sell more products and services because that's where we're spending. We're going down to JB Hi-Fi, we're going down to Woolworths, we're going out to the restaurants, whatever it is. This will lead to higher profits for the businesses and they will sell more. In return, businesses will be able to hire more staff and therefore will have a benefit for households. Okay, now let's have a look at another impact. However, with increased spending comes less saving. So that means there's going to be less money flowing from households to financial institutions because they're saving less. Financial institutions will receive less money from households and will have less money to offer to businesses as loans. Very, very good. Another impact you could look at and say, well, if businesses are making more profits, they're going to be paying a little bit more tax. And so the government will have more money to spend on their services. One last question. Very much the same thing. Interpret the effect on the 5-sector model if governments increase taxes. So governments increase taxes. What does tax affect? What's going to be the impact? Have a pause, have a go, and then have a listen to a possible answer. Okay. So government collects taxes from both households and businesses. I think we looked at that in the last response. The taxes are used to fund public services like hospitals and to build infrastructure. If taxes are increased, it means that households will have less money to spend on goods and services because they're spending more in tax. Businesses will therefore sell less products and make less profits. Businesses may even have to reduce labour. So that means less work for households. Now, governments might have to spend more on unemployment benefits. So that means more spending on welfare. So you can see there that governments collecting taxes have an impact on a number of sectors of the economy. And that's where we leave our revision question. So well done for having a look through and all the best as you get ready for the exam.